Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth and Story, and as you can see from the title, I have my copy of the Benebell Wen's deck that came in. It was supposed to come in yesterday, but I had this one distribution center up in Michigan that if a package hits that, I know it's going to be late. I don't know what they have going on or don't have going on up there, but it's really annoying. So anyways, this came in. This is a deck that has sold out. It sold out in 7 days. She printed 1,000 copies in the first run, and it sold out in a week. She has, at this moment, she's saying that she's not printing another run, but I do think it's kind of like asking a pregnant woman while she's giving birth whether she's going to have another baby, because she's, you know, they're in the middle of having all of these things to ship out. There was a small run of decks sold at the get-go for certain people, obviously, who would get the word out. I purchased this, but will put for purchase, for early purchase, in order to, you know, as people might give a deck out for review. But I did purchase this, but obviously that wasn't really necessary, because her name and what I call her amazing brain, which is what I absolutely love about Benebell, sold her decks perfectly fine on her own. So whether or not she's going to put another run out or not, we don't know. My guess is probably so. I think her husband has said yes, and she has said no. But once they have a chance to recover, she may change her mind on that. But for the moment, no. But I'm still going to go through the process of looking through it, simply because I think, again, she has an amazing brain. And I've read a good chunk of the guidebook that comes with this. I have it being printed, but it didn't get here yet. But I have it on my iPad, and I've been reading it. And so the whole process of what she did is fascinating. And so I still believe that there is a lot that you can learn from somebody who's read tarot for a long time, from somebody who wrote a giant book on tarot, and somebody who said they would not make a tarot deck unless they could contribute something new, which I think she has. So I think that there's value in looking at that, just in terms of seeing what that person comes up with. I think it's a value in every deck, whether you're going to purchase it or not, but certainly in a deck like this, where there was a deliberate attempt to approach tarot from a particular direction. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and I will make sure to put in the title so that people don't get all excited as they are watching it and then realize that they can't purchase it as of right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get it out of here. Okay, so you can see it's packaged up here still. You can still smell. So she has gone through and consecrated each one of the decks as they went out, and she had a little video clip showing in basic what she did with it. And you can smell the essential oils on the top of the package. There is a magnet here, which isn't meant to be on your refrigerator so much as it is something to keep with the deck to kind of hold the protective energy into the deck. So that is on top. She had certain things on top and certain things on the bottom, and, you know, like I said, you can see a video of how she did things, which is really, again, it makes it into something that is an experience versus other decks. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I will be keeping this magnet with the deck. She also gave 3 stickers of the same image, and I've got a 7-day candle that I'm going to put these on for use with this. A certificate of authenticity on the back of this image here. And to be honest, I can't even remember what the back of the cards look like, but we'll see that in a minute. Certificate of authenticity, 120 of 1,000, is an authentic first edition print signed and consecrated by Benebell Wen in her signature. And then a, let's see what this says. This is True Nature last of the, I can't read because I don't have my glasses, but this is something that came from 100 to 300 AD. Nature, all parent, ancient and divine, O much mechanic mother, art is thine. Heavenly, abundant, venerable queen, in every part of thy dominion seen. Untamed, all taming, ever splendid light, all ruling, honored, ever still the same. Nocturnal, starry, shiny, powerful dame, thy feet's still traces in a circling course. By thee are turned with unremitting force, mingling all flourishing, supremely wise, and bond connective of the earth and skies, leader, life-bearing queen, all various named, and for commanding grace and beauty famed. So a sort of reference to nature, or sort of an ode or prayer to nature, which is beautiful. So we have that there as well. And then we have the deck, which is still sealed. I'm going to very carefully unseal it. Put the sharp implement away. So the box is, you know, beautiful. I hate to say a typical beautiful tarot box, but it is, you know, a beautiful, typical, nicely done box. It has a beautiful matte feel to it. I do like how, I mean, it has a UPC, so this could be sold, but it's very well intricated in. It doesn't kind of stand out as terrible as some can. So I do appreciate that. It has Benebell Wen. It has sort of artwork here, the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, and then in the back it says, beneficent in command, and word was Isis, the goddess of magical spells. The company of gods rejoiced at the coming of Horus, the son of Osiris, the triumphant, whose heart was steadfast, son of Isis, heir of Osiris. Khepri, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Khepri, creator of the gods, you are seated upon your throne, illuminating your mother Nut, bull of Ametet, Thoth, and the king of eternity, you are with me. My hair is the hair of Nut, goddess of the sky. My face is the face of a 10 disk of the sun. My eyes are the eyes of Hathor, goddess of joy. My ears are the ears of Wepwewet, god of war. May the eye of Horus protect me, keep me in safety, and may my adversaries fall down headlong before me. And this is from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and then created and illustrated by Benebell and printed in China. So there you have that. So I know that a lot of people have, you know, you can look at some of the imagery and think it is a very Christian, angelic deck. However, you can see for the first thing is that it is esoteric in nature, which means that it's pulling from different sources. So we have to nature. We have from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I am not even going to try to say this. I'm sure that's Latin. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Of course, that's from the Bible. And in the back, he shall cover you with, or on the other side, I'm sorry, he shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Again, that would be from the Bible. So you do have a little white book here, although she herself has said that this is useless. I am sure that it's not useless, and it is nice to have something little with the book, or with the deck. But she does have a full, again, very large book to go along with this, that I think if you're really going to sink into it, you're going to want. But it is good that at least there is something, A, for two things, for someone who doesn't get the book, and B, even just for having with the deck as a quick reference. So it seems like it's going into some of the information that I've read in the first part of the book. And then it goes, let's see, does it give us something? It gives the number, upper realms. I just want to see whether it gives the realms of twos, and then it goes into the threes. So it does talk about the minors in the order of the numbers. So there isn't a direct, let's say, one-on-one. So it goes through all of the 8s. Here's the 9s, here's the 10s, and then, yeah. So it's not a typical little white book where it has, we can turn to one particular page to read about that, but it looks like you've got the significator, the first septenary, the second septenary, and the third for the major arcana, the aces, twos, threes, the kings, queens, knights, and then the realm of the 4 all the way through. So you can get some basic information on all of them, but obviously the purpose, I think if you're really going to work with this deck, you simply need to get the book. You could either get the deck itself, or I think it was for $10 more, get the book, and then printing it on Lulu was, I want to say $10 or $11. It wasn't very much. It was, well, so the book was maybe 20 some dollars, but I think probably in this case, well worth it. So I do have that coming. So then you have the deck here, obviously. You have in the back, again, some more Latin here. Vocatus. I'm not going to do that. I can't slaughter something that's probably an invocation or something. I feel like that would be not good. So here's the backs, which are absolutely gorgeous. They're simple. They're reversible. They are gilded on the sides. They are black and white. She started out this process to make a deck for herself. So she was going to do them in the black and white line work, and then she was going to color them in, but ended up, I think, really liking the line work. And so when she decided she was going to print a deck or make it available to print, she went back and sort of finished the line work and added more things and kind of made it into a full, black and white deck. So I will put a link to her website below. Maybe I can put a link to the search on her blog of everything about this. There is a abundant amount of blogs where she talks about all of the things that went into this. You can see the process photos. She did this in 38 days, and the process was very well documented. So it's really amazing to watch it and to read about it. So I'll put a link to that below. So she had, one of these things around it. It did not mess at all with the first. That I have a big issue, excuse me, Hay House does paper band, and it always ruins the card at the bottom. Or the first card at the top, sorry. When you're looking at it this way, it's at the bottom. But it didn't do anything at all. These look perfect, and they feel very slidey. There's no chunking that's going on from the gilding. These feel really amazing. So I don't have, again, the full, I'm going to put these back in. Full book, but let me show you a little bit on the PDF, at least a table of contents, so that you can see what the book has. Okay, I want to show you a couple things. You're not going to be able to see this, I don't think, but I just want to read a couple things so that you have an idea. So her point for not making a tarot deck in the past was that she didn't want to just make a knockoff of the Rider Waite Smith. I don't want to see, I guess knockoff is the wrong term. She doesn't want to just recreate another Rider Waite Smith. There's many people who have done so, and she doesn't consider herself to be an artist, so to speak, a professional artist. So there's many people who have done so and done so beautifully, so it wasn't really contributing to anything. And so when she was finished with, this personal thing she was doing for herself, she did actually believe in good faith. She says that I have something meaningful to contribute to the world of tarot decks. Each card's design represents my personal reconciliation of the Rider Waite Smith deck and the Thoth, with the occasional nod to the Tarot de Marseille. Prior to work on each and every card, I would read its entry in Waite's Pictorial Key and Crowley's Book of Thoth, then constantly reference Pappas, McGregor Mathers, Ouspensky, and Wynne Westcott. While working on this deck, I was reading the Corpus Hermeticum, the Physiologus, the Book of the Cave of Treasures, the Cloud of Unknowing, Albert Mackey's The Symbolism of Freemasonry, the Avestine text of Zoroastrianism, the Gathas, or the Songs of Zarathustra, the Chaldean Oracles of Zoroaster, the Oracles of Nostradamus, Capatias, the Teaching of Zoroaster, and would always have on hand the Torah, Holy Bible, and Quran, which I read from intermittently. Egyptian, Persian, Gnostic, and Hermetic texts on magic and medieval grimoires from both Europe and the Middle East were consulted during the crafting of Spirit Keeper's Tarot. I also found myself frequently reciting the Lord's Prayer while continuing my ordinary routine of the Great Compassion mantra. Yet I didn't merely transcribe from those texts onto my tarot cards. I filtered it all through my own perspective, my life, my experiences, and painted those ideas through the colors of my own emotions, despite the cards being black and white. Thus, the final expression for each card is decidedly my own perspective, reflecting how the realms materialized by the key energies look to me in my own mind's eyes. Every single card was an attempt to memorialize in pen and ink the landscapes I traversed through pathworking and depictions of the angelic beings guiding me. And then it goes on from there. But I wanted to kind of show what her point was. So I'm going to scroll back here, though. So the name of the book is the Book of Maps, Reference Manual to Spirit Keeper's Tarot. It is 441 pages long. And so it has obviously a lot of information. It also talks about how you can sort of access the energy that she's put into it. There are suggestions of ritual coloring. I think the guidebook has a full page of the image and then the text. And so then she has a whole ritual as to how using a specific form of coloring that you can sort of unlock each of the cards, and she recommends doing so. And then, of course, goes into, if you have her holistic tarot, you can understand the degree of detail in which she goes through each of the cards. This is just a PDF. It's not in it, so I can't really click on these things here. But I just wanted you to see it's actually quite a significant book. And again, for the price, I think well worth it if you're going to work with the deck. And I believe if you chose at first to not get the book and have changed your mind, I believe you can pay for just the book and add that in. Okay, interruptions. But you can see I got a 7-day candle. I'll probably put one of the stickers also on the back and obviously take off the sticker there. So that's one of my intentions for working with it and doing all the coloring and stuff like that once the guidebook arrives. This is going to be a day of interruptions, apparently. So there we have it in terms of all of the things before it. And again, the book itself, I've read about 178 pages, I think it was at when I scrolled up, of the book before, on the PDF. So I've read a good chunk of it, and it is really fascinating and because to be honest, for my own self, I was kind of a little bit questioning about it for me personally, simply because it did seem to be a very angelic deck. There is a lot of angels here and archangels and these kinds of things. And I thought, I don't know if this is something that I would actually use, but it has been really fascinating to see how she has gone about working with it. And I think that that it is in essence a esoteric deck. It's very much based on Hermeticism and esoteric thoughts and these types of things combined, which of course did include Christianity and all kinds of various things, as you can see just from the box itself. She does say Although the intricate or busy art style of this deck might give the first impression that it's going to be complex, I assure you it is not. I aspired to design a tarot deck that any Rider Waite Smith or Thoth Tarot reader would be able to pick up and start reading without straight out of the box, without any dependency on the guidebook. Except to the Thoth readers, you'll need to make do with the Strength card in the position of 8 and the Justice card in the position of 11. She really fought with herself over which way she was going to go with that, because that's obviously a major difference between Rider Waite Smith and Thoth. She ends up going with 8 and explains why she chooses to do so, even though she acknowledges there are arguments for both. Though the deck operates beautifully for everyday tarot readings, I've illustrated Spirit Keeper's Tarot with the design purpose of conveying esoteric knowledge and creating a platform for divine transmissions. To that end, each card is layered with symbolism and allegory. Each card is also designed to tell a story, to introduce you to a complete psychic realm, and to invite you to pathwork and journey into that realm. The more you pathwork with the cards, the stronger you build the foundations of your inner temple. What is within you is reflected outward. So when you possess a strong inner temple, the rest of your physical life will seem to just fall into place, harmonized, fruitful, productive, and fulfilled. And she goes on. So it is very much for me visually, it's in line with sort of the Hermetic tarot, perhaps even the Tabula Mundi, that type of deck. But she has said, and from what I've seen is the case, I don't think anybody with a base understanding of Rider Waite Smith or Thoth would have any problems just reading this as a straight up tarot deck. So there we have that. And with all of that being said, and I feel like there's so much more that can be said, she has an introduction to it on her video channel, so I will put a link to that. I'll put a link to her blog. There is tons of information that you can read about this deck. So, again, here we have the backs, and I know the light's going in and out, but it is a beautiful sunny day, and I don't want to close the windows. The backs are beautiful, simple, and the black is gorgeously done. It's not smudging or smearing at all. And yeah, it's just beautiful. And of course, it is reversible for those who do use reversals. So let's turn it over here. There are, I know, so I'm not going to zoom in quite yet, but there are 3 different Fool cards, so to speak, or key zeros. And so this is really fascinating to me because you have 3 different spirits, right? You have a spirit in search of experience. This is sort of the initiate, the very beginning steps of your journey. You have the spirit in search of science. I believe this one has to do with divination. And then you have the spirit and petition of spirit. And this would be for more channeling, kind of connecting to spirit kind of work that you might do. And so you would, these key 0 in her deck always is a significator card for the reader or whoever you're reading for. And so they act as significators. And so there are 3 of them depending on where you're at in your journey and or what it is that you're trying to accomplish with the reading. Let me see if she puts this basic into the little white book here, or otherwise I'll pull up. Otherwise I will pull, here we go. So use the initiate key for key 0 when inquiring about a new undertaking, when a path has not yet been chosen or taken, or when insight is needed on which road to take forward. Use this embodiment of the mystic fool when what is sought is experience, because a fool is going out on his first journey for experience. So if you're asking questions about needing to get answers of what direction to go in, these kinds of things, then you would use this one. Use the seeker for key 0 when divinatory insight is sought, when the adept needs guidance midstream along a path, or when divine communion is sought. This is the mystic fool who seeks knowledge, wisdom, truth, and to better understand the operations of the universe and of the divine. This is the seeker in search of systemic knowledge of the cosmos. This is the seeker that most draws me in, because I think that obviously is probably the most often the way that I would use it. Then the keeper for key 0 is used by the seasoned practitioner of the craft to empower the tarot deck as calling cards for the roster of spirits embodied within the sigils and seals of these cards. Use the keeper for spirit petitions, invocations, and evocations, or direct communion with the spirit entities resident within the cards. In other words, intentional use of the keeper for key 0 will enliven the deck immediately and open it to spirit communications, and primarily spirit communications as the mode of divination. This is also the version of key 0 to use in mediumship work, ancestor contact, or to reach beyond and beneath the physical realm to interact directly with the spirit realm. So you have, and these are really like keys then for the deck itself. By placing this in, you're talking about somebody who is just on their path and in terms of practice, maybe just beginning their path, or simply looking for guidance of their path through experience. If you stick this key in the lock, it turns the lock for the deck that opens it up to divination, for that search of knowledge and wisdom and these types of things that you normally would think of maybe as a typical tarot reader might use, right? And then this is to unlock the gate for ancestor work. For me, that would be primarily for ancestor work and or for spirit work and those types of things of that nature, mediumship and things of that. So I think that's really a really wonderful thing, because it allows you to tap into the energy of the deck in various ways and have a very clear denotation of how it is that you're using a deck by how you would place these seekers into the deck. So I think I really do love that a lot. Okay, so let me zoom in now. I wanted to make sure to explain that because that is, of course, different than you find in many decks. Let me make sure. There we go. So here we have the initiate. I love the cat here. I know she has a cat very, very dear to her heart that she lost. That is family. Spirit in search of experience. So she has changed some of the names. So we don't have these called the Fool, obviously. You can see that we have elemental signs, so this is associated with air. These are obviously going to be the Golden Dawn correspondences, because this is a deck based on Rider Waite Smith and Thoth, which are both out of the Golden Dawn tradition. They were different, obviously, expressions of the Golden Dawn traditions, and so the signs that are used here, or the astrological, all of the different correspondences are going to relate to the Golden Dawn. I'm sure I know there's a couple where, and even in her holistic tarot, where it's kind of iffy, and so she's, I'm sure, come to her own conclusions about some of them as well. But I had gone through the astrological correspondences, and I think most of the ones that you have to sort of make your own choice on, we've landed in the same wheelhouse on as well. Okay, so I want to get to the place where it had the information to see what it gives you. I was wrong about this being a cat. It actually looks like a fox to me, but she says, upon the first step of the threshold is a resting dog, or is it a fox spirit? Layered here are references to the warrior Kukulkan, the hound of Ulster, and the goddess Morrigan, Hecate, the kitsune fox of Japanese lore, and Anubis. A fox is a faithful companion and guide to the mystic. The fox is also emblematic of the Norse goddess Sigyn, I don't know how you would say that, consort to Loki. Here is both a familiar waiting for the initiate to take the first steps over the threshold, and an omen of guardian spirit standing by. In Zoroastrian magic, the dog symbolizes a beneficent spirit companion who protects a magus against demons and curses. And it goes through and gives you, as you can imagine, all kinds of information of exactly what's going on here in the card and what it might represent. So, of course, we have that. And then it has a full-size image, which again would probably be on the other page of the book. And then it has 2 pages of text about it. And then it goes into the next seeker here. This is a card that really speaks to me. of the three. I mean, they're all beautiful, and I will use them as intended, but this is the one that really speaks the most to me. So yeah, again, it's about 2 pages or so of text for this particular, for each of the cards here. And then we talked about the 3 seekers and what they mean. So we will move on here, but it's about 2 pages of text in the guidebook. So I just wanted to touch on that, or see what that would be for the guidebook here. Let me see if I can get to the regular, so then, because it goes through a whole thing with the seekers. Okay, so for each of the major arcana, at least, we're not to the minor, I don't think you know if you can see this, you have the attribute that is manifested, the Theosophical Septenary, the Saint Germain Key, the Path on the Spiritual Journey, and the Sephor. So this here we have the attribute manifested is focus and mastery. The Theosophical Septenary is the self. The Saint Germain Key is the magus, or I don't know if it's, I never know if it's magus or magus. Path on the Spirit's Journey is divinity and man, and the Sefer Yetzirah is life versus death. So again, she does speak directly about what's going on with the double-headed Ouroboros, a doubled Lemon-Scott figure, inscribed as above, so below. So she goes into detail. She tells you in the top left corner, we have Mercury for air, the quality of enforcement to know. The top right is water for water, the quality of fluidity to keep silent. The bottom... well, I guess it's this right here. The bottom left is salt for earth, the quality of fruition to do, and the bottom right is sulfur for fire. So I guess we're talking about these 4 here. Sulfur for fire, the quality of synergy to dare. Of the 4 symbols, only Mercury touches the serpent. Talks about the vines, talk about the white lilies, like everything that is here, on here is described so that you can start to learn these symbols. Again, these are symbols that you're going to see in Rider Waite Smith. You're also going to see in Thoth. And so sitting down with this deck and Rider Waite Smith and Thoth deck, I think would be a really interesting thing to do there as well to help you through. So then it has, let me just get an idea. So it looks like about 1 page. So she spent a little more time with the 3 keys of obviously to open up the deck. So each one seems, here's the managers, let me see, the priestess, yeah, so it looks like each page has a full page of text going into all of the details, and then a full image, a full page image of the cards. This image is one of the reasons that I knew that I really wanted to have the deck, along with this one. Of course, there's many images that I love, but this really spoke to me strongly, and this priestess card really spoke to me. This is the attribute of esoteric knowledge. It's the Theosophical Septenary of the soul. The Saint Germain Key is the gate of the sanctuary. The path is creative power, and the Sephir is peace versus war. And she has it named the sanctuary of Isis. This is just really beautiful. Woven into the major arcana is coded revelation of the Eleusinian mysteries, an occult religious rite honoring Demeter and Persephone. In Key 2, the dark pillar is symbolic of Persephone's hair and eyes darkening when she descends into the underworld in winter, and the light pillar is spring when the hair and eyes lighten. Which is so beautiful. So yeah, I'm really excited to sink into this. For me, this is a deck that is about sinking into knowledge and information on an even deeper, as well as connection to some spiritual energy that she's really included here. So I'm going to just go ahead and go through the deck now, or we'll be here forever. Plus, my PDF isn't the easiest to try to find information about. So here we have the Empress, which we saw on the card here with the ode to nature, so to speak, which makes sense with the Empress card. And again, everything in here, from the wheat sheaves to the swans to, you know, the way that the headdress, the dragonfly, all of those things have specific meanings. They aren't put in there just for decoration. They're put in there for a specific purpose. You also have like a stork or a heron in the back. And I also know that they also interconnect with their other cards as well, in terms of there being similar birds in 2 cards that tie them together. Okay, I'm going to back it up here and do a flip through. I think this is going to be the most interesting to me and useful, is to do a flip through of this in conjunction with the Rider Waite Smith and the Thoth. The decks I am using is the borderless edition of the Smith Waite Tarot deck, which is the Centennial coloration, which is my favorite. And then the other is the Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot by A.G.M. Mueller. And so I'm going to do a flip through of this. There is so much, you know, I started to do a flip through of this just straight through. There's so much information here. There's so much going on that I would be doing it a disservice to try to explain it before I really sunk into it myself. And so I'm going to be treating this a little bit more just like a straight flip through if you were using this as a tarot deck, which she has very clearly indicates as possible, and I believe that from the flip through that I've seen. If you're comfortable with the Rider Waite Smith, if you're comfortable with the Thoth, I think that with a few maybe needing to look up, you would be perfectly fine using this just straight up as a tarot deck. But the whole point of this is that this is her fusion of these 2 things with a nod to Marseille, which I have seen in going through the cards. And so I thought it would be interesting to see this flip through in conjunction with those 2 decks. And so we're going to do that. I'm not going to try to get into all of the things any deeper into what she's attempting to do than this first flip through, because I think that would have to be another video after I've worked with the deck. But you can see in the Thoth, we do have the Kabbalah as well as the astrological correspondences here, which we can see Mercury here. I haven't quite figured out what these top ones are in the major arcana, and with the PDF of it's such a meaty book, I couldn't find it immediately there, so I'll have to get back to you on that. It is the astrological correspondences in the minors. So here we have it. We can see the this, you know, again, the Ouroboros is a concept that we're used to seeing with the Magician. We can see as above, so below, which we see in the motions here, and I think even in the motions here. We can see the flowers and the lilies that are associated. We can see also those in the Rider Waite Smith. I don't see as much in terms of like no winged feet or anything like that might bring it a connection with the Thoth as much. So this one to me seems a little bit more leaning towards the Rider Waite Smith. So here we have the High Priestess. Again, as I said, I'm kind of backing it up a little bit, but as I said, I really love, I'm going to leave that part in even though we're kind of redoing a couple, is that I really love, this is one of the cards that I thought was very, very interesting, and I love how she writes about this particular one. But you can see the half-hidden scroll of the Torah here. You can see the pillars here. You can see the pomegranates. You can see the crescent moon. The headdress is the same on both. She's gone this way with an elemental cross. Again, I see a little more Rider Waite Smith than I do Thoth here, although just having all of these things at the bottom does remind you of this as well. but I'm not going to try to delve too deep in, other than to let you be able to see the different things. You can see the swan from the Rider Waite Smith, or I'm sorry, the Thoth. I'm going to get real confused here. Or it could actually be the heron storky thing here, depending on how you want to see that bird. You see the scepter as well. And so you are seeing a combination of the two in this. You're seeing the abundance here. I think this actually reflects both well, but at the same time, you can see her own additions and interpretations. Obviously, many of the figures' clothing, so that I've seen a lot, does have an Asian look to them, which I think is a beautiful putting in of her own culture as well. Here we have the Emperor. We can see the eagles here. We can see the ram's horns that we see in both figures. We can see the scepter here looking more like an ankh for that, but we certainly see similarities between the two. Obviously, this is something that is associated with Aries. Again, I'm not going to try to go too deep, but other than just to give you a look at where these come from. You can see the hand gesture here. You can see the crossed keys, whereas he's mostly holding just a single key. You can see the supplicants. You can see the bulls that you're seeing a lot in here as well. You can also see the elephants that came from the Thoth Tarot. So you can see in this one is, I think, a really good one to see the combinations between the two. Here you have Cupid's arrow. You also have, in the Lover's card, you see the Tree of Knowledge and the Tree of Life being used with the Kabbalah. But instead of the angel here, you have more of the Cupid's arrow. You have what looks, I'm guessing, to be maybe a phoenix and a dragon as the two things here below. You see the cup of the Thoth that is between the two. You see that as well. So again, you're seeing a combination of images. These images are fairly similar. You do see sphinxes here. You see a shield that's a little bit different on both of them. You do see the canopy here. Yeah. So I think that, you know, these actually do have some similarity between the Thoth and the Rider Waite Smith. Now, of course, she has switched. So let me pull she's gone with Rider Waite Smith, and again, I think she did so, landed on that. I know from what I saw that she kind of struggled with that, but I think she landed on it because of, the astrological correspondences. But I could be making that up. So here we see Lust as the named strength. She's gone with a little bit of a nod to the Marseille with force. And we see the image very similar to the, I would say more similar to the Rider Waite Smith there, although we do have the snake there as well. Here we have the Hermit. We can see that the lantern is in place that ties in the both of them. We have the walking stick that would normally go there. I actually really like the addition of the corn, and I can't tell you exactly why, but for some reason that really speaks to me as well. I'm not seeing as much other than the key of the lantern, which is important. That's tying it as much to the Thoth. Here we have the beautiful I really like the addition of the web here, which I think is not in either one. And for me personally, that says a lot. That's a strong connection for me. So I actually really, really love that. So, of course, you have similar energies between the two cards here. You have the Sphinxes. I do love seeing Justice kind of tied in here. The scales right here that are showing up. You have 4 spheres where oftentimes you do see the 4 different sort of angelic or human. I think there's usually a bull, there's usually a lion's head, these types of things. And so she just has 2 sphinxes and she has 4 spheres. So I'm sure that that has some connotation to it. But again, I'm trying to just go through here. So here's Justice. Again, this would be at 8 if you were doing it in the Thoth way. So she has it as the Chancellor. I think it's a gorgeous Justice card. Here we have the Hanged Man, which she is calling the Outlaw, which to me is a little bit of a nod to the Marseille as well. That more traditional idea of redemption that comes from being hung on a tree after being caught for something. So I think that that's really interesting. You can see the nod to Thoth in what's holding the feet, but you also, she's added the pillars in, which is interesting. I'll be so interesting to see what these reflect. We have a swan here and a fish here. We also see, I think, the flower that is on the, similar to that flower that's on the back of the Rider Waite Smith. Here we have, I just love the death card in the Thoth. You have a very similar feeling. It also has a Marseille nod with the body parts on the ground, but you can see the boat in the distance, and you can also see the rising sun, which I like as well. Here we have Temperance, which is art in the Thoth. Interestingly, you have sort of that same web we saw of knots of ropes on her, which I would be very curious to read about. That interests me greatly. A lot of things going on around her. Visually, it looks the most like the Rider Waite Smith here. I don't see as much reflection of the art or Thoth card, but that could be more in the details as well. Here we have the Devil card, who is a little bit more ram-like, like the Thoth here. I also think what's so interesting here is that you have the Lovers, which is, of course, number 6. 5 plus 1 on is 6 on the Devil card, and so you see the Phoenix and the Dragon in chains here. So you see that connection, and I'm sure that there are many other connections like that, which I think is fantastic. What's interesting is that you actually have the Devil is chained to, it's on its chains, which I think has some very fascinating connotations for me. Here we have the Tower, which I really like this Tower card. Again, you have that feel of the Tower and the lightning strike, which is a little bit more abstract for sure here in the Thoth, although I think that the Thoth has that energy of the Tower really in there strong. We have a trident, looks like to be a trident that we don't normally see. We also see a volcano in the background. So it's quite a lot that's going on. We've got the snake going on around it. I'll be really hurt. She calls it the material and the spiritual colliding. So that is fascinating. Here we have the star. Can we just talk about Lady Harris? Her artwork is amazing in the Thoth. Again, you have similar concepts, right? You have 2 cups spilling with water, which we have here. You have the star in both of them. You have this woman here. So this is these are actually similar concepts, and you can see all of those there as well. For the next, she calls the moon the necromancer, gateway of resurrection, which is so interesting. We definitely get more of an Egyptian feel to the dogs, which kind of ties it in with Thoth. We have the scarab beetle as well that we see here. We see some birds there. So we don't see the traditional lobster or crab that we do in the Rider Waite Smith, but we do see the towers, which we see here as well. This one feels a little more Thothy. Here we have the warrior, which I love. Please, thank you. We have a woman, a female here, what looks to be a female to me. We don't have any babies, which is exciting to me. We have 6-pack cherubs and a little boy here. I love this. I see, you know, the deck that I learned tarot on was the Llewellyn, and it had Lou on it on a horse, so a strong warrior on a horse. And that's how I see the sun card, so I love that. We have the Last Judgment. Energetically, you feel that length that you feel with the Aeon or the card in the Thoth here. But she's kind of done her own thing a little bit here. Like she has a lion here, which there's not in either of the decks that I can see. You have the Tree of Life, the Kabbalah Tree of Life here. You do see the people rising or putting their hands up to the sky here. So there is definitely feels like a mix here. I'll be interested to read about this. And she's called it the Apocalypse, which is awesome. Here we have, he looks a little bit elongated, or she or they, could be more going for the blending of genders. Artistically wise, there's something weird about the perspective of that particular card, but not enough to drive me crazy or anything. I love that we've got the triple circle with that meeting the mandorla in the middle of it. That I think is really fantastic. You see the traditional heads that you see in the 4 of these. You do see the laurel wreaths, which you see in the Rider Waite Smith. So again, I feel like this is sort of a blending of the 2 with her own addition. So then that brings us to the numbered, the minors. Actually, I think she has these in order of, and I don't really want to lose the order of these because she has these in the order of kind of going through the process and things of that nature. So it's a very specific order. Okay, I will do the reordering of them when I sit down to do the work, and that will kind of put me in mode to put it back. And I'm also going to do the court cards at the end because I want to talk about those a little bit. So let's just go through the numbered cards at this point. So, oops, yeah. So here we have the aces. I mean, oops, I got this. I got to put this in the right order. Too many decks to manage. So the Ace of Wands, I think, you know, you can see this. She has Sacred Fire, and she has this as the Awakening. The 2 of Scepters, you can certainly see the 2 scepters here, but you also see the cross scepters that you see in the Thoth. Which I think is really powerful, and I'm sure that there are some interesting ideas for the ram as well. This also kind of reflects this that you see here, so there's a good combination here, and she calls this the discerning one, and you can see that now we have the elemental signs associated here as well, the planets and the signs. With the 3 of Scepters, it feels much more Thoth-like versus what you traditionally see here as somebody looking off. Now, you do see the water here and looking off there, but it feels much more, as she calls it, the politics. So I'll be interested in this. It's called Virtue in the Thoth. Again, you have a good combination. You see the castle in the distance. You see the celebrating people here. But instead of the 4 pillars, you do have the wheel that you see in the Thoth. So it seems like a very strong combination. We have Strife. She has this named as Contender. Again, you see a crisscrossy formation, but you also can see almost the battling and fighting going on here as well. We do see also a snake involved, which is fascinating. So I think it's a good feel for both of them. We have the Champion here with the 6 of Scepters. You can certainly see the patterning of the Thoth, as well as that sense of being up on a pedestal that we kind of get a feel for with the Rider Waite Smith. So I think a really good blend. I love how she's blending the pattern feel of the Thoth pips with the Rider Waite Smith. I think that's really fantastic. I really like this. She has this called the Dark Horse. I love this. I mean, she looks like this is somebody who's kick butt. She is grabbing hold of that arrow as it comes and gonna shoot it off. I really love that. That feels to me like her kind of own take on this. This was she did say that this would have been rainbowed if it had been colored, which would have been that connection and nod to the Thoth as well. Here we have the 9 for Strength. She has as Malaise, which is a little bit more that this has a very Rider Waite Smith feel, like she's, you know, been in a battle. She's got some difficulty and some pain here, but she's going to hold anyways. Again, I like the patterning weaving that you get from this. Feels very Thoth-like, but then you do have the ox pulling this heavy burden here. So you get a good, I think a very good blending of both here in the minors that I'm seeing so far. And then we have of course, the quartz, which I am going to save for at the end. So let's go to the ace. So here we have the Ace of Cups. Again, I think you see similar energy between all 3 of them. You have the 2 of Cups with that sort of joining. You get that fountain feel a little bit with that, as well as that feeling. There's these fish here. She's got snake, but you have the joining hands. So again, I think and you have the same sigil here. I think she's done a really good job blending the 2 and calling it the joined one. We have the Kindred, which feels very much Rider Waite Smith, but you've got the 3 cups that are here as well. I quite like this rendition. I love the Kindred too. It reminds me of Anne of Green Gables. Absolutely love. The title, not so much, The Hollow Void, although I have to read about what that might mean. But this is a much more meditative 4 of Cups, which is how I read the 4 of Cups. So that works really beautifully for me. Here we have the Grotesque. I don't know why she would call it the Grotesque, so I'll have to read about that. But image-wise, we have the 5 of Cups, the 5 spilled, the 2 upright. Disappointment is what the Thoth has called it. So there's a little bit more going on here. You do see the river going off into the distance. It does look like he's picked up something here. And this one does feel a little bit more like it's ready to turn and go off and into the new path. So I'll be interesting to read about the title of that. I love this as being called the Memory Keeper. This feels very Rider Waite Smith, but also what I love is that this is the number 6, right? The 6 of Cups. And so, and this is in more than just this card. This one's just an obvious one. So here we have the Lovers when they were little babies and cracked out of the eggs. How freaking adorable is that? Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Of course, you could say the same thing about the little children, but whatever. Here we have the corruptor, or the illusion. What's going to kind of pull us away from our path? In Thoth, it's the debauch. So it has a more of a feel and name-wise of the Thoth, but of course you have all the cups with the different things in them. They don't look like they are all the same items. So we have the snake here. Probably gluttony. We have vanity with the peacock. I'm assuming maybe sloth with the slug. We have a lion, which I don't think is in there. You have a goat and you have a frog. So there are some different things. I'll be really interested to read about the things that she's put in there. This is really interesting to call this the defector, and this is known as indolence in the Thoth, whereas we kind of see, I think as Rider Waite Smith readers, we often see that sort of going off, not defecting, but kind of going off. It's time to sort of go off on a new journey. So I'll be really interested in some of these titles. The wish fulfillment card is obviously the 9 of Cups, which used to be the 9 of Hearts in a deck, which was the wish card. So I quite like that. Definitely has a more Thoth feel to it with her own additions. I also, I think you get a sense of both of these in terms of the joyous one of the 10 of Cups. And then again, we have the court cards. So let's pull those out. I know this isn't the perfect way to approach all this, but I'm just trying to do it in a way that's interesting and helpful in a deck that really does need a lot of time to sit with. Although, again, we're going to do a reading with it because she has said, and everything I've seen here, this would be very easy to pick up if you're comfortable with the Rider Waite Smith or the Thoth. So here we have the Sacred Cinnabar for the Ace of Swords. The 2 of Swords, this is one of my absolute favorite 2 of Swords. If I had gotten a larger 2 of Swords tattoo, this is the exact tattoo I would get. But it very much feels like it is connected with the Rider Waite Smith. The bench and everything of that nature is very similar. I don't see as much of the Thoth there. The 3 of Hearts is sorrow. She has it as the bereaved. You can see a heart with the 3 swords in it, which is reminiscent as well of the Rider Waite Smith. So you can see that there is an Egyptian motif going on here, which will be interesting to read about. This feels very, obviously, very much Rider Waite Smith feel to this. It's gorgeous. I actually love, it looks to be temperance, I think, or healing that is in the window, which I quite like that in the window, in the stained glass there. So this definitely feels, although you do have that rose here, that floral motif that is brought in from the Thoth as well. Here she has the Hector. The Hector. So I'll have to definitely look into that. We definitely have somebody who's won and some people who are not that thrilled about winning. So you can see the sense of defeat. I like the path forward into the new sun. I think that's going to be interesting to read about. Very reminiscent of the Rider Waite Smith, which I'm happy about because it's one of my favorite cards in the Rider Waite Smith. I really love the concept of this, and you definitely have this sense of movement towards something else. I do love this 6 of Swords as well, and she's got her named as the ferryman, or him, or the person. The card is named the ferryman, which I really love. So I quite like what she's done there. This is an interesting 7 of Swords, isn't it? You've got somebody who's sleeping. It almost looks like a fairy tale. Somebody who's sleeping. You've got this person coming in, but still, we don't know what's happening, right? We don't know why this person is doing this. He may be about to free this person. We don't know. And it's named the Rogue, so I quite love that. Here we have very interesting combination of the 2, the captor, where we have the sword formation, but the person behind it who is bound. So that's really interesting because I think she's going to have a hard time getting out of that degree of binding by herself. But there are a whole bunch of of Swords in front of her. Here we have the Nightmare Caught. She has it the Haunt. And so very, very Rider Waite Smith in look. I love this particular version of the Nine of Swords. The Ten of Swords, I think, is fascinating. She's, we do see almost, it's the same hand motion, so we definitely see the same person who is quite impaled. But at the same time, we have this going on here, and it's more focused on the person. So what is being destroyed here? That, I think, could be fascinating. But you can see the ruin and the destroyer. They all, you know, this is beautiful. I love this. But it's definitely, in looks, a little bit more Rider Waite Smith with that addition, though. So that's going to be fascinating. And then, of course, we get to the quartz. Oops. I've got so many piles down here. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Quartz. Okay, so then that brings us to the pentacles or discs, or she is calling them as orbs. So very different orbs, although you can see some of the patterning of the Thoth as well. This is one that I do think is quite, it feels like quite a nod to Marseille, but of course, as you can see, this is quite a nod to Thoth in actuality. So we have that. We have the Mason with the Three of Orbs, which has a bit of a more of a feeling of a Thoth, but we do have the archway that we see in the Rider Waite Smith. We have tools here, so I think that it's a nice blending. This is so interesting because you have this very with the 4 elements of Thoth. You also have the seated position of the Rider Waite Smith, but I love that she calls this the Conservator, because for me this is a card that comes up when it's time to conserve our resources. She may not mean it in that sense, but for me that works very well. Here we have the Five of Orbs, which is Worry. She has as the Vagabond, which kind of, you can feel that sense there. You've, of course, got the beautiful window, which I love, of the Rider Waite Smith. Her formation of the orbs is actually different than both of them. Interestingly enough, this is Puella in Geomancy, which I'm, again, sure that that wasn't her intention, but that is about things being, being more harmonious. And so if they would just go inside, they could kind of reharmonize things. But that is just my own self. I love this card. It kind of reminds me of the Sacerabito deck, in that I feel like you see this beautiful connection between the two, and less about a big, you know, somebody who's more and somebody's less, but that understanding that when we give, this person could be giving or this could be giving, right? It could go either way because we're connected. So I really actually quite like that. We have the Gardener. You can, again, it's a different configuration than is in either one, so I'll be interested to see what she's done with that, but she's patiently waiting. I quite like the image. And then we have the Journeyman, somebody who has come to a sense of mastery. So we have some reminiscence of that, but there is a much more a powerful nature to this that I really like. 1, 2, 3, and 3 in the middle. Again, she's done some different things with the configuration, so I'll be interested to see what that is. But I think this is beautiful. Excuse me. It looks like somebody in luxury. She's got the bird here. It's not really a bird of prey, but she's got a bird here. So I think it's actually quite beautiful. And then, and the 10 of Orbs for wealth. This has definitely a more connection with the Thoth and the Tree of Life. I do like the generational thing that we've added, and it's the idea of dynasty and legacy that we get with the Ten of Pentacles. So I really love that. And that, of course, brings us to the court cards. So I do want to set those up a little bit differently. And here you can see all of my piles. So I will say up until this point, again, I'm really pleased with this. Not that, you know, she needs my pleasure, but I'm pleased with this as a working deck, just as a deck for doing readings. I think that it's quite, could be quite powerful just in that nature. So let me start to organize these piles, and so she has archangels, she has the golden shields, which I know are the queens. She has flames, which are the knights, because you can see the horses are still there to guide us. And then she has strongholds. So the strongholds are the pages, the different shinings are the knights, the shields are the queens, and the archangels are the kings. Although she doesn't keep gender strictly in accordance. So let me organize. I don't think these are going to go. I'm not even going to, I think, compare these to the Thoth, because I don't think that's the point of this. I think she's actually done something quite different. Let me see if I can get all 4 in a row. No, I'm not going to be able to get them all, but let's just do them 2 at a time. So the archangels are in the place of the kings. So the archangel of glory is the angel of art and grace. That is for the suit of fire, which you can see. We have an archangel of healing, which is cups, angel who salves and purifies. The archangel commander, the angel of storms and battles, which was swords. The archangel of mysteries, angel who illuminates the shadows, which I think is beautiful. And you can see the orb that is here. So you can see there are gender neutral. There are some that look female and some that look more male, but the archangels seem to be more gender neutral here. What would be the queens are the shields, which I love that they kind of stand as, and you think of shield maidens, and it just does my heart good. So we have the golden shield, power and authority of fire, the ivory shield, power and authority of water, the scarlet shield, power and authority of air, and the ebony shield, power and authority of earth. Love the horns, love the feathers, love, I don't see anything so much to do feeling overly watery here. I love the sort of samurai feel as well here with the fire and the sun behind, although there looks to be that behind all of them. I think these are really powerful. Again, this is something particular to her deck and how she is setting up her court cards. I actually really like them. So I think that is amazing. So then let's take a look at the other 2 suits. So with the suit of what would be the suit of knights, we have the shining flame, the shining dew for water, the shining wind for air, and the shining quarry for the orbs. So lightning and the pyre, waters and waves, a swirling gale, and wild fertile land. So you get more of a sense of the land here and the movement on the land. This is lightning and waves and swirling winds and wild land. So you do get a sense of movement here. And you can tell that these are knights because they do each have a horse in them, and they do also have these beautiful insignias. I think that's fantastic. And then for the pages, you have heralds, which makes sense. And they're strongholds. Herald of awakening. They all have letters. Herald of the purifying, herald of the consummating, and herald of the darkening with the orbs. We have stronghold of the flame, stronghold of the grail, stronghold of the zephyrs, and stronghold of the veil. I really love what she's done here and can't wait to sink in. And I can see that my light from the window is got too much. Who knows how long that has been blocking things from being seen? Well, probably since I've zoomed out. I apologize. I really love what she's done here with the quartz. I think that that is going to be an amazing experience of working with those. So there we have, you know, again, for a deck that I think is one that is going to be one that you want to spend a lot of personal time with. I intend to dive deep with the text and things that come in once the book is here, which I have ordered. It's just showing fulfilling. It's just not here yet. In the meantime, I'm doing a once through on the PDF side of things. But I think I also can see going through this, as she said, I think using this as a tarot deck is going to work perfectly fine. Let's see how they shuffle. They're a little slippy. I know people are going to be horrified because I riffle shuffle at Benebell Wen's deck, but that's what I do. That's what I do. Again, it's not recommended that you, but look at that. You get a beautiful, there's no stickiness. You're not getting chunks. That's a big deal for me. You're not recommended to riffle shuffle gilded edges. I riffle all of my gilded edges, and the good ones hold up to it. Yes, it's going to show wear faster than somebody who does not riffle shuffle, but I'm okay with that. It just means I've used the deck, and that I know that there are people who say that that's disrespectful, and certainly in a deck full of spirits and energies, you know. But for me, disrespect or respect comes from intention. And my intention is not disrespectful, and I don't find riffle shuffling to be disrespectful. They overhand beautifully as well. They're a gorgeous matte finish that is still slippy. They don't stick. It's just gorgeous. They absolutely feel gorgeous. So let me pull up on my iPad just the one reading, just to kind of get a feel for the very first pull. Let me go back here. Oh, just for a standard, she called it an everyday spread, so let's give it a try with an everyday spread. There we go. Daily reading spread, excuse me, is what she calls it. And of course she says that you know, in this case, we're looking at these in a much more practical sense. We're, you know, maybe not trying to get important spiritual message. Not that those can't come out. But the first two cards are the forecast for the day and the night. Number 3 is what to avoid or reduce. Number 4 is what to attract, and a key goal to strive for. So I quite like that. So let's see. Even though it is 1:20, well into my day. Let's just see. So we have, let's see, I'm going to try to make sure you can see. Of course, the 2 in swords show up. I love it. Decisions to be made. You know, if you're just doing it for the everyday, decisions, there's some decisions ahead, so be aware of that. And at night we have the gardener, so perhaps some patience, perhaps letting some things come into fruition. But in a practical sense, you could say, I might need some patience tonight. So then the third card is something to avoid for today. The void, the hollow void. Now, you know, you could look at this in more the traditional Rider Waite Smith 4 of Cups. Be engaged with light. Avoid kind of just going with the flow. Perhaps this isn't a time to sit and meditate. I have a lot of things to get done, so I need to avoid just kind of sitting with things at the moment. This isn't the time for it. Again, something to avoid doesn't always mean it's negative. It simply means that right now is not the time for it. The fourth card is what to attract. This is the stronghold of the flame. So we know that this is a page because we have the letter that's here that makes it really easy to remember. I love that we have this root here. I wonder if that's like ginseng or something. I'm so excited to read through all of these. And you can see it's a chess piece. I didn't notice that. We're going to have to go back and look. All the pages have a chess piece, a pawn on them. I'm going to look in a minute. But let's just stay here for a moment. So this is Herald of the Awakening. This is the page of the flame. So for me, this is page of fire. Perhaps attracting sort of new energy towards creative energy, something I actually need to do today. And so, you know, again, you can read these differently than you would if you were doing a spiritual reading, when you're just kind of seeing some energy that you need to sit with. And then the last one is a key goal to strive for, which is a knight. This is a Knight of Pentacles, traditionally, the Knight of Orbs. And so this is a lot of practical movement, getting some things done, which is exactly what I need to do. But I'm doing, but you know, doing a deck review is also getting things done. So there we have it. Again, I find this is going to be, I think, beautifully, while we're talking, I think this deck can be used as is without maybe having to go into depth with it. Just picking it up and using it as a deck. I don't personally see any difficulty with that. Again, if you have a basic understanding of the cards. So some of the name changes might throw you off, but as long as you just kind of go with your base knowledge, I don't think you're going to have any issue. And they're all pawns. I didn't even notice that the first time through. I really like that. Yeah, I really like that. So anyways, I will stop. So there we have it. Again, I haven't even scratched the surface of this deck, but you know, just kind of going through it as is, as being able to see this as a deck and understand that there is so much more to dive into is something that is exciting. I would, you know, keep your eye out if this is something that you missed out on. It did sell out so fast. Again, while she may have said that there's not going to be another, that she's not, at this moment, she's not promising another edition, I think that that doesn't necessarily mean that there never will be, so I would keep your eye open for it. And invariably, it's not going to be the thing for somebody, and you might see these come up for trade as well. So I would say don't lose entire hope. But I hope that this was an interesting look, even for those who haven't gotten it. I think that there's a lot to be said for paying attention to this, or for taking a peek at this, even if it's not something that you were able to or were interested in perhaps getting a hold of. I was a little bit wary about it, again, because of a lot of the angel references and things, but I think that this is going to be a very powerful deck, and I think it's going to be a very healing deck, and I can certainly see myself using this far more than I anticipated, although I think it's going to, a lot of the times, going to be a very personal deck as well. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.